The Repechage Round is going to be introduced for 200 meters, events 200 meters to 1500 meters. Those are the events. It's not going to be introduced to the 100 meters, nor in the longer distances, the 5,000 and 10,000. And why are they doing it for the 100 meters? Hello and welcome to another in our series Technique Talk, where we talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about. And today we're on the topic of Olympics as well, and we're looking at the innovation to athletics. It's not an innovation to sport, but it's an innovation to track and field athletics, in that World Athletics has introduced this repechage round for qualification for the Olympics. It's a very interesting concept, French, of course, and it simply means second chance. It's second chance at making it to the next round. And why are we doing this? Well, some persons believe that, in fact, the system of qualification is not fair. It's not, the heats are not always correct in terms of how the persons are assigned to the various heats. And it's never fair, and it will never be fair in terms of how an individual is assigned to a heat and then having to qualify automatically by a place to get to the next round. So some persons believe that because of the fairness of it, there is still quite a bit of opportunity to improve on that. And so this concept of repechage is trying to somewhat solve that particular problem. Some heats will always be weaker than others, and therefore it's easier for an individual in another heat, a weaker heat, to qualify into the next round as opposed to someone in the heat that is a little more difficult. So the repechage round is going to be introduced for 200 meters, events 200 meters to 1500 meters. Those are the events. It's not going to be introduced to the 100 meters, nor in the longer distances, the 5,000 and 10,000. And why are they doing it for the 100 meters? Well, the 100 meters already have a preliminary round, which is the qualifying round, the first round. And in the case of the 5,000, the longer distances, it is believed that because of the recovery required to go from one round to the next, it makes it impractical to stage the events in such a way that the athletes recover and then come back for the next round. So that's the logic behind it. So normally, qualification, you go from heats to semifinals and then on to finals. And usually there are some athletes who will automatically qualify for the next round, and that's usually based on place. So track and field is predominantly about place. The first person that gets across the line is the person that we give the medal to. And in the true sense of the sport, it's place that's more important than time. So usually the heats, their qualification system to get to the next round, semifinals. So they might say the first 3 athletes that cross the line would automatically qualify or guarantee the spot. And then the next qualifying athletes would be by time. And of course, that would be across all the heats of the athletes, all the heats that were contested. The best athletes, and sometimes they're referred to as the best losers, would then advance by their time. But of course, the wind conditions are different from one heat to the next heat, especially in the 200 meters. We might have one, I shouldn't say especially in the 200 meters, but some venues, competition sites, may very well have swirling winds. And so the wind conditions vary from one heat to the next heat, so athletes don't get to compete under the same conditions. So that's one of the arguments that's supporting this concept of repechage round. So this innovation is actually not new to the sport in general. I mean, this is done in rowing and other sports, but it's the first time being done in track and field. And it's for the Olympics. We've seen it at the World Relays in terms of qualifying for the next round. So this will just change how athletes will qualify for the semifinals. So normally, as we said, it will be heats, semifinals, and finals. With the repechage round, it's heats, repechage, semifinals, and then finals. So there are 4 rounds for the Olympics, with the athletes entered for events 200 meters to 1500 meters. And this is for athletes who would have not made the automatic qualifying performance or place going into the next round. So how it will work, of course, is that the athletes who didn't automatically get an automatic spot to move to the next round would then have to run again. So all of them would come back and they'd run for placing as well. So it would be for time, it would be for placing to advance to the semifinals. So this is actually a case where maybe the top three, regardless of time, would automatically get in, and then the other athletes who didn't qualify by time would then get in. But it's an interesting thing. That's what's going to happen with Paris with respect to even the seeding of the athletes in the heats or the heats of the preliminary rounds. Of course, the qualifying period would have included Budapest and other competitions. So many athletes have qualified for the Olympics based on their performance that they did at the World Championships, which was 2023, while some athletes qualified based on their performance during the current competition season. So you have a season's best versus a qualifying performance. And of course, the information that's used to seed athletes will be interesting. I think more than likely they're going to use the qualifying performance rather than the season's best of the athletes to do the seeding for the first round. So let's take the 200 meters, for example, and see how this will probably work out. So there are 48 athletes who are entered in the 200 based on their qualifying automatically by the qualifying standard or by world rankings to get in to complete the field of 48. So 48 athletes would pretty much 8 lanes each, 6, 8, 48. So we're going to end up with 6 heats of the 200 meters. And so some athletes would automatically qualify. So let's say it's top 3. So top 3 from each heat, 6 3s to 18. We're moving from 48 athletes to 24 in the semifinals. So 18 would leave 6 athletes who would qualify by repechage. So it's interesting because I'm not sure how they're going to do this and what the qualifying rules will be. But if you advance 18 athletes to the semifinals, 6 athletes remaining, you end up with 30 athletes now in the repechage round, 30 athletes to contest 4 or 5, 4 7s, 28. It's going to be interesting how they work this one out. So you're going to end up with 30 athletes for 4 heats. I don't know. And then, of course, you're looking for, well, I can't imagine it being more than 3. And then you're advancing top 2 to get to the next round. It's going to be interesting how they do this with the qualifying rules. So let's wait and see what the qualifying is going to be from the heats to get to the semifinals. How many will automatically qualify? So 24 athletes, usually 3 semifinals, or if they move into 2 semifinals, but that would be crazy to move into 2 semifinals. So 24 athletes to run in the repechage, 30 athletes possibly to run a repechage for the 200. And that, of course, we're looking for top 2 to advance to that next round. So what are some of the positives of having this repechage round? Of course, it means that all athletes will at least run twice in the Olympics. They'll run twice, which might be positive for some athletes, being able to come to the Olympics and have 2 runs rather than 1. Well, that might be a positive. But how does this look in terms of the schedule? How does it look in terms of the schedule as we go for this Olympics? So let's take the 800 meters women, for example. The 800 meters heats, or round 1, is at 12:45 p.m. on August the 2nd. That's the heats. And then, of course, they come back for the repechage on the 3rd at 4:10 p.m. And then on the 4th, the semifinals would be at 1:35 p.m. So, of course, those women who automatically qualify by place from the repechage, from the prelims, would get a day rest in that. The 3rd of August would be their rest day. And then, of course, they come back for the finals on the 5th at 2:45 p.m. So that's going to be interesting. So the athlete who runs in repechage round may very well, if they make it to the final, would have ran 4 times, one every day. Of course, it's kind of interesting that an athlete who has the quality to make it to the finals of the 800 meters would not automatically advance from the heats. If you have the quality to get there, you should actually get there. But stuff too happens in these events. And I think in the case of Shericka Jackson, she would have made it if the repechage round had existed at that time. She possibly could have won the 200 meters when she slowed down and didn't qualify. So the fans have mixed reaction to this innovation in the sport. And the mixed reaction, some people think it's an awful idea. I mean, we want to hear your reaction too. What do you think of this repechage round? Some people think it's an awful innovation, and some people just don't like the idea any at all. And of persons that question, well, how did we get to be in rowing? The sport, we're not rowing. Some people believe that it's more work for the athletes, but of course, it's either here or there. And of course, it would benefit some people who run in the sprints like the 200, where the wind effect might affect the individuals qualifying, as well as even maybe 800 meters, where the strategy and the tactical differences are there and evident. So this is an interesting concept, the repechage round. Just drop a comment down below. Let us hear what you think about this innovation from World Athletics for this Olympics. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, please continue to tune into our channel, subscribe, like, and share our content, and look to see you again. Thank you for joining us on Technique Talk. Have a great day.